Welcome, everyone. I just got the YouTube live stream up and going. I feel so technologically savvy here. Welcome, everyone. I just got the YouTube live stream up and going. I feel so technologically savvy here. That was an echo, but I fixed it. Okay. Ha ha ha. I spoke too soon. I did, but then I fixed it, so it's all good. I think we're good. Do you hear an echo now? I don't. All good. Great. So we're recording, we're on YouTube. Some of us are in the Zoom room, and we are set to go. Great. Perfect. All right. Today's day 3, and this day is so important. What I'm going to talk about today is really the meat of it all. And I don't expect you to get it all today. I don't expect you to um, create all the changes today. So don't expect it of yourself. Just really open up your minds and hearts to receive exactly what's meant for you right now and trust that what you receive right now is exactly what you need for right now. Because we only have right now. And one of the biggest mistakes and traps we fall into is feeling like we've got to get it all right away. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. And it's that very assumption in and of itself that actually keeps us locked and stuck. So it's all about trust, expanding and deepening our faith and trust in ourselves, in our natural process of becoming and expanding into greater and greater expressions of our true nature. And the more we release any gripping over like trying to get it, trying to change it, somewhat ironically in terms of how it appears to us, but completely according to law, the more we release our gripping, the more we receive and the faster things change. So really let yourself practice that during this hour together today. Just releasing all gripping, all need to fix anything. That's a big one because there truly is nothing to fix. But our paradigm has this massive belief that there's something wrong with me, there's something I need to fix, there's a problem. And as you'll see today, I'm going to like really put the magnifying glass on this. As you see today, it's that assumption that is creating this feedback loop for us that is constantly reflecting back to us that there is a problem. So let's just practice today being in this open, receptive, and trusting place. Practice your faith here on this call. Even if it's the only time today that you practice absolute faith in your own process and your own self, that is so powerful. So releasing all ideas that there's something I need to fix and changing that idea to there's something I'm now becoming aware of that is so vital to my well-being, and I'm so grateful for it. That type of prayer is in alignment with this prayer process that we've been looking at over the past few days and over these 5 days. Whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe that you are receiving it and you shall have it. So during this time together, just believe you are receiving what you've been asking for. Practice it. Okay. So today we are expanding on what we were talking about yesterday. Yesterday, I introduced the stick person. Some of you who are watching this live on YouTube may not have seen yesterday's class yet. That's okay. This is our stick person. And if you go and watch the replay, you'll see it. You'll see the whole discussion of it. But I can also review that today because you can't really um, get enough of this. This understanding is going to change your life. It looks like such a simplistic thing, this little stick person. It's going to change your life. So I'm going to review this today. Yesterday, I introduced this concept that we have a mind and it's divided into two parts. Society focuses almost exclusively on this part, the conscious mind, the intellect. It's where you gather all of your knowledge. It's where what school focuses on, all the information, all the knowledge. And the crazy thing is that this part, even though our society is so fixated on it, is not what is in charge of our results. This part is. It's our subconscious mind. So yesterday we talked about the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and how the subconscious mind is in control of almost everything, 95%. I mean, I consider that pretty much everything. Almost everything that we do, that we feel. And today, we're going to get into a really huge part of what's in our subconscious mind, which is it's in control of not just what we feel in general, but how we feel about ourselves. And that part of ourselves, this part of our mind, is in charge of the body. It actually is in charge of the whole molecular structure of our body. The subconscious mind is in every cell of the body. And it compels us to act in a certain way, which produces certain results. So if you've been producing results in your life, like I was, and I'm still a work in progress myself. I'm working with this every day. You never graduate. There's no graduation from this. This is a lifelong process. But if you're producing results in your life over and over and over again that you're like, why is that happening? And then you're like, wait, why do I keep doing that? This is why. Because there's a gap between what you know and what you do. There's a huge difference. Like think about somebody who wants to release weight and they go on a diet and they see like this, someone brings in this delicious cake and they say, ah, that looks amazing. They know that eating that cake is not conducive to producing the results that they want, which is releasing weight. But yet they find themselves saying, yes, please, when someone says, would you like a piece of that cake? And all of a sudden they're putting it in their mouth and they're thinking, why am I doing this? That is kind of a crazy, out of control feeling if you think about it. To be doing things that you actually don't want to do. So then it's like, well, then who's doing it? Who's doing that? If I'm not doing that, but I'm doing it. And that for me was so confusing and so frustrating until I understood this stick person and until I understood what I'm sharing with you today, which is the self-image. So when we talk about self-image, we're not referring to who I think I feel that I am. Like, for example, I used to think that I felt pretty good about myself. I honestly used to think that. Like, but the things that were reflecting back to me in my life in the form of occurrences and events and relationships were not congruent with that idea. So then I realized, oh, I actually don't feel that way deep down. So like up here, I thought, oh yeah, I feel pretty good about myself. Down here, I did not. And remember, it's this that is in charge of pretty much everything. So it's not enough to just think. It was like I used to think that I was pretty confident, but I wasn't actually stepping forth and doing things that would express that I was confident. I used to think that I had trust in the universe, but then I was finding myself constantly gripped in fear. So, what you believe, like what you really believe, like if you think about that word believing, if you just take out the the second E, it's be living. And I like that play on words. So it's like what you believe is what you be living, basically. And that was a real shock to me at first because I was like, whoa, I thought I believed all these really positive things, but I only believed them intellectually. My intellect was convinced. My intellect was convinced that I was totally uh, supported, like that the universe had my back. That's like a common saying, like the universe has my back, that I'm one with the universe. I believed that intellectually, but that was not expressed in how I was living. I was living in fear. So we've got to be willing to get real with ourselves. If you want to really make a change in your life, the very first thing you have to be willing to do is just get really honest, really real, and take a look at your life without judgment. Because remember, this is so important. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, I see some things in, oh no, okay, I was just checking the chat. Um, I'm going to share my screen again and show us this um, image, which is what we look like when we were first born up until about the age of 8. And this is when your paradigms are being formed. And this is when your concept of yourself is being formed. So when you first come into this body, you are just, I am. And every single one of us is, I am. And there is only truly, actually one I am in the entire reality of existence. And it is the capital I-A-M, divine consciousness. Singular, whole, complete. Now, think of that one entity having over 8 billion extensions of itself radiating out from itself, like a sun with over 8 billion rays. Okay? That's us. And each of those rays, which is truly just an extension of that I am, has its singularity, has its own uniqueness within the context of the oneness. So there's unity and there is singularity that's within the unity. So when we're born, our consciousness is just pure I am. That's why being with a newborn baby is like so incredible because they haven't differentiated into the lowercase I A M. They haven't acquired an identity separate from the actual identity that we all are. Except what's been downloaded in the DNA, and that's actually quite a bit. But as far it's primarily just unadulterated consciousness. But then what happens is this concept of oneself starts being formed, and it's very interesting how it gets formed. And this concept of yourself that got formed at this time in your life, this is why I say there's no judgment. And it's brought me to tears many, many times. Tears of, gosh, grief, of seeing like, wow, I believed that about myself. All these terrible things I actually believed about myself. Tears of gratitude, like, I believed it about myself, but it wasn't true. But it's brought me to tears to see like all of the things I acquired about myself that were so detrimental to the optimal functioning of my life. but that I had no control over. So when you start to see, and you're going to keep seeing more and more, it's like, when I started this work, I was like, okay, Bob, so Bob Proctor, I'm talking about, if it's all subconscious, how do I know what I'm believing? How do I know what my paradigms are? He's like, that's easy. Just look at your results. Look at your life. Whatever your bank account is, that's your money paradigm. Whatever's going on in your relationships, that's your relationship paradigm. What's going on with your health, that's your health paradigm. What's going on in your work, that's your work paradigm. And I was like, ooh, ow, ouch. That was like hard to swallow. But if you look at it like this, that this is how we are brought into the world and we have no ability to reject anything that comes in, you start to change your beliefs with the underlying principle of forgiveness. I forgive myself for ever believing that I wasn't worthy. I forgive myself for ever believing I wasn't good enough. I forgive myself for ever believing I was ever anything other than the divine perfection that exists. I forgive my parents for believing that about themselves and transferring that belief to me. Just forgive, 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 because it's all happening when it's not intentional. We didn't intentionally assume a whole bunch of garbage about ourselves. We did not. So don't beat yourself up about it, but you've got to be willing to see, because you've got to first really see where you are in order to then also get where you want to go. Think about a map. Let's say you want to go to San Francisco. Great. Okay, let's plot the course. But wait, where am I? I don't know. Am I in Florida? Am I in Alaska? That makes a big difference. So you've got to also just first be willing to see where you are, but see it objectively. Like put a detective hat on and play the role of detective and be like, okay, I'm going to dive in and see what are my assumptions about myself. Because these assumptions are controlling everything. And there's a lot of those little buggers. And so the way they get formed is incredible. So I have 3 kids. And there are times, I still remember this. I use this example a lot because it's so powerful. I have 2 sons, and one of them one day said to me, Mom, why are you looking at me like I'm stupid? And I was just so blown away because, I mean, all my children are intelligent, but if I had to rank them in order of like cerebral intelligence, he'd be at the top. So he's like the last kid I would ever, and not that I would ever think any of my kids were stupid. I can't even imagine, but I just want to say, he would be at the top. If I had to rank them like on level like IQ or however you measure intelligence, he'd be at the top. And here he is saying, Mom, why are you looking at me like I'm stupid? And I was like, well, gosh, the question I'd like to ask you is, why do you think I'm looking at you like you're stupid? I'm just looking at you. And I was probably thinking about something I had to do or thinking about something that happened that day, and it created this particular look on my face, but he interpreted my look as if I was thinking that he's stupid. And I'm only mentioning this because this is how it happens. Bob Proctor said, my self-image is not who I think I am. And it's actually not who you think I am. It's who I think you think I am. Wow. Can you see what a mess that is? What a mess we get ourselves into when we think someone is thinking something about us. And then as a child, when we have no ability, I'm so glad he asked me. Who knows how many other assumptions he made when he didn't ask me. Like, Mom, why are you looking at me like you don't love me? Why are you looking at me like I'm not good enough? Why are you, who knows? But at least he had the ability to ask me, and I was able to clarify that there is not a word of truth in that moment. And I felt so grateful. But each one of us goes through this process when we're kids. Like for me, certain things happened in my childhood that I interpreted in certain ways that I was not aware of. We are not aware of this until much later when we have this whole pile of evidence that we call our lives, and then we're like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? What is my problem? Why are things so difficult? Why am I not progressing? Why am I not able to be successful? Why am I not able to do what I really want to do? Why do I keep quitting these things? Why? That's when we start to realize, I mean, if we're blessed enough, and every single one of you is, because you're here on this call being exposed to this. Maybe it's not your first exposure to it, but every exposure you get to it is going to click off ahas for you. That's going to catalyze your transformation. We're blessed because some people never get to see it and they think it's them for their whole lives and they die thinking that. But the truth of who you are is the uppercase I am. That son. That's the truth of who you are. That's who you were born with as, that's who you'll die as, and that's who you will eternally remain as because there is only that. But while we have a body, that I am consciousness fuses with a concept. And it's that concept, we call it a self-image, that acts as a thermostat, controlling all of your set points. So what do I mean by a set point? I mean, like you have a certain set point in your finances that no matter what seems to happen, it always seems to equal back out to that. Maybe not completely numerically, but often it's numerically, like to the like down to the really close to the dollar. But maybe also just as a theme, like no matter what it seems you try to do, like maybe you work more, you get another job, or you take a course to improve yourself, or whatever, you're still only like for me, my set point was month to month. Like I was just kind of hand to mouth, getting by, but just month to month, never having anything to spare. And sometimes, not having much, not having quite enough to make it through. But for the most part, it was month to month. That was my set point. And, maybe like I would get a big tax return, or I would, something would happen and I would get this kind of like a big sum from this way or that way. Something else would then happen to bring it back down. Same thing happens with health. People, you see that with weight all the time. You go on a diet, you start exercising, you get close to your ideal weight, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm right back to where I was before. What happened? Well, it didn't just happen. But your thermostat kicked in and it was like, we're too far from the set point. Get her back. So all of a sudden you stop exercising quite as much and you start eating a bit more. And it's not conscious. All of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that new habit. I'm back to my old habits. How did that happen? Because you didn't change your self-image. So you have an overweight concept of yourself. And then you're back to being what you consider to be overweight. Or you have a I'm struggling concept of yourself, and all of a sudden you're back to struggling. So this is a big deal. This is the crux of it all. And I want to just share a little bit. I was not exactly sure, when I was going to talk about myself, because I don't, I want this to be really about you. But I realized that talking about myself helps you because we're all more or less the same. Where every single one of us is this. We're all built the same way. And there are only really a certain handful of themes that we all absorb about ourselves, assumptions, basically, as children. They're very basic and they're very universal. And then they manifest in a variety of different circumstances. My circumstances perhaps are quite different from yours, but as a whole, my story probably isn't. So I just want to share a little bit today. We'll see how far that goes, and then maybe I'll share more tomorrow. I was originally going to share it tomorrow, but then I realized, well, the self-image day is actually the best day to talk about it because this is what really helped me to make sense of my life and to start changing it. So there were certain themes going in my life for a really long time that I didn't understand. For example, once I left high school, I graduated, I was 17. I then proceeded for the next uh, decade, decade plus a bit, really till I started having children, um, to start so many things that I did not finish. I started going to college. I didn't finish college. I started going to herbal medicine school. I didn't finish herbal medicine school. I started going to shiatsu school. I didn't finish shiatsu school. I started another herbal program. I didn't finish that herbal program. I started studying homeopathy. I didn't finish studying homeopathy. I started becoming a farm manager on an organic bio-intensive farm in California, and then I quit. I moved around, bouncing back and forth from California to the East Coast many times. Just when things would start to get rolling in my life in California, I would decide I want to go back to the East Coast, to this area where I was born. I'm going to go back. And then things would start to get established here. I'm going to go back. So I was keeping myself in this continual state of flux, uncertainty, incompleteness, and I was tormented because all I wanted, consciously, intellectually, all I wanted, and in my heart, really, was to settle, was to find, quote unquote, the thing that I'm here to do and to do it and to establish home and work and be settled and solid and secure. And my behavior was keeping me from all of that. And the most incredible thing is that, well, not the most incredible thing, but something that's very remarkable is that in all those instances, there was in every single moment that I made the decision, I'm leaving. This isn't working for me. I'm quitting. In that moment, it always seemed like it was something about the thing I was doing that was the problem. The administration's terrible. That teacher doesn't understand me. I'm not really getting my money's worth. This place doesn't feel like home to me. They don't understand me. Blah, 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 blah. And I totally fell for it. There was always a reason that I fell for that seemed like it was outside of myself, where it was like, well, this is why I've got to go. And it was true for me. But there's only one common thread throughout the entirety of that time, and it was me. Only one common thread. Me. So I started to think, okay, I think there's something wrong with me. That's the angle I took with it. And you know what? There was something wrong with me, but there was nothing wrong with me. I was perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. You were perfect. But there was definitely something wrong with my assumptions about myself. And they were controlling my behavior. You can see that so clearly. Another common theme, in addition to this, that I experienced from age 15 for many, many years, and then again later, but getting into relationships and completely losing myself, what I truly wanted, and saying yes to what the other person wanted, regardless of whether it was true for me. And that includes sexual relations, like saying yes when I meant no. Over and over and over again, until that became just so normal to me that it was like, well, why does it even matter? I've cried a lot of tears about that. That's like you know, why would I do that? Why, as a 15-year-old girl, would I do that? It wasn't conscious, it wasn't intentional, it was automatic. I'm talking about automatic behavior here. Remember I said we are over 95% automatic. So why would someone not honor her own feelings, her own truth? Why? Because she doesn't feel like she matters. Why else? Why on earth would I not feel like I mattered? Well, and I just want to say before, I'm just going to shine a light on it briefly. In this work that I do with my clients, we don't spend too much time digging into like, well, why did I develop this assumption? Because you could go down that rabbit hole and stay. And a lot of therapy does that. You start digging and you can dig and dig and dig and stay down in that hole forever. And the whole focus of my work is to step into the light, to really acknowledge that all this, all this crap happened in my world. And I developed an assumption about myself, and that assumption intrinsically was false. And I release it now and replace it with the truth. So the work I do is about replacing what was false, what was negative, what was detrimental, what was keeping me small and limited and in lack, replacing it with what brings expansion, growth, healing, relief, well-being. So we don't spend too much time focusing on how messed up it all was, but we do spend just a bit of time to gain enough clarity and understanding. And then we quickly shift. And the primary focus becomes on that. I just want to preface this because a lot of people are so accustomed to really wanting to look at, well, how did I get so messed up? And how did my self-image become this? And how did I develop that belief? And really, there's not much point in it. But I do want to say, I'm giving it to you as an example so you can start to understand how you developed your assumptions about yourself. Because it can be a really big trauma experience, or it could be something that seems so minor. And a child will still create an assumption. So you don't have to have a traumatic childhood to have terrible assumptions about yourself. There are some people who have traumatic childhoods and manage to develop, good assumptions about themselves. That's not the determining factor. It's how you perceived it. So like, it could be something as simple as, like, for example, in my childhood, how did I possibly develop an assumption of I don't matter? Well, a couple things. These are just examples. Someone forgets to pick you up. Someone forgot to pick me up from gymnastics once. Did they forget on purpose? No. Did they abandon me on purpose or actually abandon me? No. But I'm telling you, I've done some back searching, I came back to that moment and realized, I didn't feel like I really mattered to them. They forgot me. How could I matter if they forgot me? That's a really basic one. That gives you just a little insight that like it doesn't have to be a big event. I played sports as a young child, and very rarely did my parents come to my games. Is it because I didn't matter to them? No. I now know I mattered so much to them. But they were so preoccupied with their drama and their lives and their things that and I always on the surface I think seemed like the kind of kid who was like, yeah, I'm good. Why did I seem like that? Yeah, I'm good because I didn't want to burden them. I didn't even feel like I could say, actually it really makes me sad that you don't come to my games, because somehow I got this idea that it was more important for me to take care of their feelings than mine. So it created this whole thing where it was like they thought I was good and they had stuff to do, and maybe they even thought I didn't want them at the games, who knows? But I had this feeling, this idea of like, I'm not important. I don't matter. and on and on and on. There were some other, ongoing experiences of like expressing my emotions as a kid and then my mom getting offended and angry and it becoming all about her. So then it's like, oh, she matters more than I do. Otherwise, she would put her own reactions aside and just come here and be with me. So it's like, this is just life happening, and all these things are happening. But my whole point is, we are subconscious sponges, and we come up with some crazy ideas. And then those ideas control everything. And what happens is that assumption, I don't matter, starts causing me to behave in a certain way that produces an endless stream of evidence that I don't matter. See. And then it's like by the time you're the age that I came to this work, I don't know when I came into this work, but early 40s, you're like very solidly convinced because you've got so much evidence. Another one, so why would I quit everything? Why would I not finish these things I was so excited about that I really truly felt were aligned with how I wanted to be and serve and give in the world? The holistic healing arts, basically. Why would I quit everything? Well, I had this idea that I am lost. I'm lost. I don't have, I'm not, I'm not settled. I also had a belief of I'm not really good at anything. So I wouldn't let it get good just to prove I wasn't good at it. I wouldn't let it get settled just to prove I was lost, not consciously. This is self-image. Your self-image is what you put behind, what you put after those letters, I, A, M. I'm struggling. I'm confused. I'm broke. I remember listening to an astrology reading someone did with me. I was in my early 20s. I had it for a long time. And this guy was encouraging me to go back to college and finish this degree and I was like, "Well, I can't because I'm broke." I wouldn't be caught dead saying those words now. Whatever you put next to I am is you are invoking. You are commanding the divine spirit of life, the creative power to produce it for you. But we throw those words around like crazy. I'm this, I'm that, I am. All of that indicates what you truly believe about yourself, how you truly feel about yourself. So, how do we change it? How do we change our self-image? Well, you already, most of you, some of you perhaps are a little bit quote unquote behind. Don't worry, you're in the perfect place at the perfect time. But those of you who participated in day one and took the time to clarify your desire and have taken the time to even take it a step further and turn it into a goal, have already started on the road that's required to change your self-image. So the reason I coach people to choose a C-type goal, remember, what is a C-type goal? A C-type goal has some very interesting requirements. Not your typical goal setting requirements. A C-type goal is something you've never done before. It's something you want from the depths of your being. It's something you have no idea how to do. And it's something that actually, when you think about it happening, kind of scares the crap out of you. That is the kind of goal I coach people to work with. Why on earth would you pick such a goal? Why would you pick a goal that your paradigm immediately comes in and says, oh, yeah, right, as if that's ever going to happen for you, Sarah? That's exactly why. Because you've got to change your paradigm to achieve that goal. You've got to change your paradigm. You've got to change your self-image to achieve that goal. And we're here to continually upgrade our concept of who we are. Because who we really are it's like the biggest upgrade that you could possibly conceive of. It would blow your mind who you are. I throw these words around like you are the divine spirit of life itself. And even when I say it, and probably when you hear it, none of us are really hearing it. None of us are probably really getting it. I'm getting it right in this moment, and it's powerful though. We are God incarnate. I'll just say that. I'll just say it because it's true. And yet we think so small about ourselves. And this power is endeavoring to express itself through us, and we're given it the tiniest possible little crumb of a chance. So we choose a goal that causes us to have to expand the concept, the form, the ourselves as vessels through which it's expressing itself. And that's when things really start to shift. What I wanted in my life most of all was to, like I just said, to know my purpose, to be living it, to be grounded and at peace and solid and secure and happy. But what I also wanted more than anything was to cognize my unity with the spirit. And this work does both. Because I worked on the spirit part for a long time, but my life was a mess. That doesn't make sense because there's nothing separate from the spirit. So if I was really getting it, my life would be reflecting it. So there was a disconnect, and it was here. There was a disconnect. This looks like a line. It's like a barrier, in the picture. It's not how it really is, but in truth, it's like there was a disconnect. I had all this spiritual knowledge, but it wasn't affecting my being. Otherwise, I would have been happy. I would have been at ease. I would have been all the things that I wanted. So all the things that you want are actually the spirit itself wanting it through you. You're trying to get back. You're trying to get back home. Every single one of us is trying to get back home. We left home thousands of years ago. I don't even know when it happened, but go to the Garden of Eden story. We left home. We developed some crazy idea that we were separate. And that just has kept expanding, 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 and creating all this turmoil in its wake. But we're not. We never have been. We never could be. That's impossible. But we have to cognize it in our consciousness. And this work, upgrading your actual 3D life through this process, does that. It's phenomenal. So first, you have to just clarify, what do I really want? And then you do your darndest. My clients are challenged with this all the time. And I will say that I also still sometimes let Mr. and Mrs. Howe in my space too. I try to bar the doors and block the windows and say, no, you're not coming in here. But I say, don't let Mr. and Mrs. Howe and their entourage of children, like should, could, would, can't, all the things, into your sacred space of clarifying what you want, because they're going to just mess it up. Because the how is not your business. It's the who. You ask yourself, who do I need to be to manifest this goal? Who am I with my goal achieved? And you start to create in your consciousness first the idea of this woman. And I used to see people and be like, oh, like she's like so good at that. I wish I could be da 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 da. I wish I could da. And it used to get translated kind of as envy or jealousy. That's the low vibrational way of interpreting that. But now what the way I look at it is like, oh, that quality that I see in that person is also in me. And it's wanting to be expressed. And that's why I'm attracted to that. So, one way you start to build your new self image, because remember, what is a self image? It's a concept. And the real truth is, we are just the I am, the pure I am. But we have to, while we're alive in a body, we have an acquired concept. So if we're going to have a concept, like think of it like an outfit. If you're going to wear an outfit while you've got this body, why not make it the best, like most awesome outfit you possibly could make it? You still know it's just an outfit. So this isn't about getting completely, fully identified with this I am. You still know, oh, this is how I feel myself to be. But you understand its purpose. It controls what we can receive. It controls how we act. It controls the ideas we think of. It controls the people that come into our lives. Everything is attracted to us. Remember yesterday I talked about the law of attraction? Everything is attracted to us according to our vibration. And the vibration is a feeling. So this feeling of I am is being broadcast out into the field, and it's attracting to itself that which is like itself. So if you're attracting people who don't respect you, if you're attracting people who, you know, gosh, you know, possibly abuse you, if you attract people who don't give you the time of day or put you down, why is that? Because somewhere inside of you, you're a match to that. You don't feel good about yourself. You beat yourself up. You don't feel like you're worthy. You've been a doormat to yourself for a long time. And then you think, I'm just a doormat to these people. Why, it's because of that. It says, they say, no person comes unto me, save I call him. No man come to me, save I call him. And that could be a little hard to swallow. It's because some of us have called some pretty unsavory people into our field. But once you upgrade that concept that's attracting it, you no longer are a match to those people. You're a match to something else. Why do I keep calling in like misfortune or unsuccessful things or, it's all because of the self-image. So it's really important to start to get clear of like, okay, there is this concept that got built about me, and I was believing it for all these years, and it generated all this evidence. Okay, now what do I do? Well, now I have this goal, and I'm in love with it. You've got to be in love with your goal. And if any of you have had trouble making your goals, connecting with what you want, come to the Q&A on Friday. I'm hosting a Q&A right after the call on Friday. And I'll help you. And I'm also inviting all of you, I haven't put the link up anywhere yet. I will do that though, to book a call with me so we can integrate this material, and I can help you on that call as well to clarify what you want. So don't worry if you're like, oh my gosh, I want to do all this work in my life. I want to change. And I'm still having trouble clarifying what I want. Well, you actually know exactly what you want right now, but maybe you're having trouble giving yourself permission to even be aware of it. And that's okay. It's all okay. But let's just assume you have clarified what you want and you've turned it into a goal. That's step one. The very next step is to forget about the how and focus exclusively on the who. And to do this, you have to use, remember yesterday I spoke of our higher mental faculties. Because you're not yet presenting yourself as this person. But she is you. She's absolutely you. But you've got to use your imagination and don't let that throw you off. We've been conditioned to believe that imagination is just for like, oh, it's just child's play. That's just imagination. That's not actually real. Okay, right now, look around your room where you are. I'm assuming you're all somewhere in a room. If you're not in a room, you're in a car, most likely. Look around where you are and ask yourself if you can find anything in your environment that did not first come from an idea in someone's imagination. I don't think you're going to find anything. I never have yet. Unless you're in pristine, unadulterated nature, everything in our human created environment has come from an idea in someone's mind. You know, like pen, paper, water jar, mug, clock, phone, all of it, everything. This computer I'm talking to you through, someone had the idea. Where do the ideas come from? Thomas Edison said they were just floating around in the air. Where do ideas come from? They come from infinite intelligence. They're being given to us. So you now have an idea of a goal, a desire. You've got an aim. Remember what I said about that on day one? It's a decision. You've made a decision. I'm going there. Whoa, I'm going there. So like think about like let's imagine you decided I'm climbing Mount Everest. Okay. That's a goal has been a goal now for many people. Some have achieved it, some haven't. But let's say that's your goal. And now you're looking at yourself and you're like, okay, who do I need to be to achieve this goal? Because I'm the one who's going to have to climb up that mountain. You're not walking up Mount Everest. I'm the one who's going to have to climb Mount Everest, right? You're like, gosh, well, I'm definitely confident. I'm definitely fit. I'm definitely courageous. I'm definitely tough. I'm like, what are all these qualities of this I am that climbs that mountain? And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not that right now. I've got some work to do. Well, this is the cool thing about this work. Remember what I said yesterday about the subconscious mind. Here, I'll show you the slide again because some of you were not, I'm sure, weren't here yesterday and probably haven't even yet watched the replay. But please do because they won't be up forever. But so look, this is a detailed, excuse, there's a couple typos on here, not mine. I took this slide off the internet and then added a few things to it. Just want to say, I do know proper spelling, but look at what is the way the subconscious mind is described. Okay. This is the key. And again, I'm giving this all to you over 5 days. Just keep that in mind. I'm doing my best, but I typically give it to you over 6 months. So if any of you want to dive deeper into this and you know this is what you need, please reach out to me. I'm happy to share with you every single thing about how this works, what I do, what we do in the program, and we'll see if it's a fit for you. But I'm doing my best to give it to you regardless over these 5 days so you can put it into action for yourselves now. That's why I made the workbook. It's the first time I made a workbook for my classes, so really utilize it. Some of you are, and it's fantastic. But look, this is really exciting information. Look at this. This is golden. I want you all to get this and start to get excited about it like I am. Look at this. The subconscious mind works in feelings, okay? So the feeling is the language here. We're talking. Number one. Wait, I'm trying to get my little pointer so we can all use it to see. It's the feeling. There's a feeling that goes along with the woman who has your goal achieved. It's a vibe. She's got a certain feeling. And that's for you to discover what that is. And then practice being in that feeling. How do you practice being in that feeling? Well, how would you practice being in a role in a play or a movie? You're given a character description and you've got to be her. And you've never been her before. Maybe that's never been even been part of who you are in your life, but you develop a vibe as this character. This is actually the work of creating your new self-image. In the Thinking into Results program that I teach, that Bob Proctor created in lesson 6, which is the self-image lesson, he talks about developing the ability to be this actress in your life, acting the part, because your subconscious mind works in feelings. And look at number 3 under works in feelings. Must accept. Those words are like music to my ears. It must accept all information impressed upon it through repetition and emotion. So it has no ability to reject. So you could have had the most unsuccessful life according to your standards up until this point. Doesn't matter. If you can grab the feeling of success and repeat that feeling and practice embodying it, regardless of whether you've actually had what you would call a success, you're going to start having success. The subconscious mind controls the vibration of the body, number 4. Number 5, I added this, very important. So exciting. And it took me a while to understand what this word means. So if you don't understand it, don't feel bad. Reasons deductively. What does that mean? What it means is it's connected to number 6, which is it doesn't recognize precedent. What it means is it takes a feeling to be a fact, regardless of what has come before. So whether you spent your life like me, feeling like you just aren't important, you don't matter, you're not worthy, you're not valuable, you're not successful. I spent decades feeling like that. Doesn't matter. Once I could grab the feeling of like, I am worthy, I do matter, I am important, I am really damn good at what I do, my subconscious mind accepted that. But I had to repeat it, I had to feel it, and I had to act like it. That's what we're going to get into. That's the receiving part of it. You got to act like it, but you're not going to really be able to act like it until you've internalized it enough through the repetition and the feeling. According, Neville Goddard, we study him a lot in my mentorship program. I always send people the book, Feeling is the Secret, because it is. You've got to get into the feeling. How does it feel to be safe? How does it feel to be prosperous? How does it feel to be successful? How does it feel to be loved? You don't want what you want because you want the thing. You want what you want because you want the feeling of it. You want the feeling that it's going to give you. You want the feeling that your goal is going to give you. That's why you want what you want. And the key to having the goal is to practice feeling that way now before you actually see it physically. Wayne Dyer quoted, he's the one who created the phrase, I'll see it. You'll see it when you believe it. And that is the expression of the law. But we've been taught, oh, I'll believe it when I see it. And then we're all waiting forever and we never see it. If you're waiting to believe something about yourself, if you're waiting to see it before you believe it, you're going to wait forever because you're working the law the wrong way. It doesn't work that way. It's a law that operates on belief. So you have to believe it first, and then you'll see it. What you see physically is always the last thing to show up. And what you see physically now is just the sum total of your past beliefs. But you don't have to believe them for another minute. In fact, I encourage you to not go the long road and like right here and now today, drop all beliefs about yourself that you would not attribute to God or the divine or the universe or source or whatever you want to call it for yourself. Anything that you would not say about that infinite power that has created everything, that is part of everything, that is everything, is not true about you. How about that? And then you're like, whoa, all right, well, now what? Well, now get to work creating your self-image script. So we're at the top of the hour and I don't want to go too far over. I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes, but I encourage you to do the exercises for day 3 for the self-image lesson that are in the workbook I created for you. And use your imagination. This is really fun. Let this work be fun. Don't make it drudgery. Like make it play. Let yourself imagine, okay, I have now achieved this goal. Hmm, who am I? How do I feel? What am I wearing? Where am I living? Who am I with? What kind of thoughts do I have? What kind of, how do I relate with money? How do I relate with time? How do I feel about the work I'm doing? Let it flow from you. It's already in you. Let it flow from you onto the paper. But don't say, well, when I achieve my goal, I will be. No, that's going to keep it forever in front of you. Make sure that you say, I am. Because the language of the subconscious is, I am. I am. I am. It's always now. If you say, I want to be, your subconscious interprets that as I'm not. And it sends an instant communication. Like, think about it like, it sends a text message to the divine and says, give her this, which is more of not having what you want. As opposed to saying, I am, I have. Now, your paradigm will try to come in and say, no, you don't. No, you don't. Where is it? This is where understanding the order of creation really becomes your absolute necessity and advantage. And this is why we need to study. We need to study this. So we can feed our intellect the truth. So with my mentorship program, we study together too. That's what we do, because you've got to be armed with the truth. You've got to say, your paradigm comes in and says, no, you don't. No, you can't. No, you're not. No, you won't. And you say, yes, I am. Because I know that everything begins as a cause inside of my own consciousness. And every effect I'm currently looking at is actually my past objectified. I'm not going to keep reacting to the past because I know it's going to keep producing the same result. I'm now choosing a new thought. I'm now choosing a new identity. And I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to assume it. I'm going to embody it. And I, in faith, trust this process that then I will see it. But I don't see it now, and I understand why. So I'm not going to let this evidence of my senses deter me from doing what I need to do to produce my desired results. You got to get firm with your paradigm. You got to say, I'm sorry. I hear you, but I'm not engaging in that conversation with you today. It's not going to necessarily stop. Did anyone see that movie, A Beautiful Mind? It's not like those people, those voices stopped for him, but he stopped paying attention to them. What you start putting your attention, what you take your attention away from will eventually just fade and wither. Your attention is the way you direct life force energy. So don't keep directing your attention to unwanted circumstances. That's what most people do. Most people are focused on what they don't want. And they keep producing more of it. And then they wonder why they're stuck. That's it. You have to train your attention now to focus on what you want and embody it as a feeling of it being now. And it's an art and it's a practice, and it doesn't just necessarily happen overnight, but it is the way. And I teach this way, and I've learned this way, and I don't know where I would be without it. I really, truly, I might just still be, I think I'd still be bouncing around to this and that and the other, completely controlled by my old self-image and my paradigms, just lost. And it's funny, like when I made the landing page for this class, I pulled a couple testimonials from my clients, and I noticed that the two that I had pulled, and there were others that say the same thing, they both started off with the sentence of, before I started working with Sarah, I felt lost, or I was lost. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I used to feel lost too. Not anymore. And you don't need to be either. Because you're not really, and you never were. It's impossible. But you've developed an idea that's keeping you stuck in a feedback loop feeling like you are, and then you just keep producing all this evidence of it. It's like the movie, remember? You got to change the film. So what's on this new film? Who are you in this new movie? Have fun with this. I'm really looking forward. I hope more of you start sharing your homework with me. I would love to read about who you are with your goals achieved. And then tomorrow, we'll talk more about this in the class that's about faith, fear, and the power of decision, all connected to self-image. So thank you so much. Briefly, if anyone here in the Zoom room has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we will wrap up. And remember, there is a Q&A live. I'm going to stay on after Friday's session for another hour if need be and answer anyone's questions live. But I'm open to them now if you have any.
I have a quick question.
Great, please. Yes, hi.
I think something that's kind of really since when I started working with you, it's the ask and ye shall receive. But if you are that already, then why are you asking for it?
That's a great question, Wendy. And so we're not asking for it in the way that most people ask for things. We're not saying, please give me. We are clarifying for ourselves that which we desire, but immediately we shift from the asking to the assuming of it. So like it's a prayer. So when I pray, for example, I don't sit there and say, please give me XYZ. I say, thank you. I am so grateful now that I have received and am receiving XYZ. And so, but because there's a, it's not, it's, it's ask believing you've received. It's not asking, we haven't, it's describing the physical, it's describing the order of creation. So the physical, we already have it. Otherwise, we couldn't even conceive of it.
Mm.
And we have it in another parallel reality. But if we want it here in this dimension with us physically, we've got to claim it first. And the claiming of it is the clarifying and the expressing of it. And we call that asking. But it's a simultaneous with a feeling of I already have this. So yeah, it does seem contradictory, but we're dealing with levels of manifestation. And so it's like the physical is it's the last thing to show up. Like remember I've given the example of lightning and thunder, how the thunder is it's the sound of the lightning, but it could happen like many, many minutes after. But it actually isn't separate from the lightning, but it shows up later. And so we're syncing up with what we want to experience physically by clarifying it meant in our consciousness, becoming aware of it in our consciousness. I hope I'm expressing this clearly. It's a good question. So we're not asking for it at all from this assumption that we don't have it, but we're acknowledging that we have to engage consciously in a process of claiming it before it can show up physically.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, no, it's just kind of hits me once in a while. I'm like, why am I? Yeah. But now that's a good explanation. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's like, well, what's written on your goal card is what you're asking for, but you're not.
Yeah.
When I look at my goal card here, it's all in the I am, and I know, I believe 100% that it already exists, but I'm keeping this. Once I've completely synced up with it in physicality, this is no longer going to be on my goal card. Something else will. So it's keeping me in vibrational alignment with it while it's actually coming into form.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
when someone is pregnant, there's a period of time, there's a gestation period that from conception to birth. But that being is already in existence. But you're not relating with that being physically in this like lived dimension yet until that baby is born and has now entered this physical environment. I mean, of course, you feel the baby move around and all these things, but you know what I'm saying? I'm using this as a metaphor. It's a gestation period.
Yeah.
So, same with the seed in the garden. When you plant that seed in the garden, it's all the everything required for its fulfillment is already contained within that seed, but you're not seeing that. You're not eating that finished cucumber at the same time that you've planted the seed. So it's the asking is you're just selecting the seed because we're selecting from infinite possibility here. How else would the divine intelligence know what to produce physically if we don't select? So we're giving design. We're giving design just like in the seed. That's actually the asking, you know.
Yeah.
I hope that
That's
makes
a good
sense.
metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that.
Thanks for asking.
I just needed a reminder. Thank you.
Hmm. Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's a tricky thing for our intellect to get. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm. Thanks
All
for
right.
being here, Kathy.
Thank you.
Hmm. All right. Anybody else? Otherwise, we will wrap up. And I really look forward to having you all here tomorrow. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Work on the homework. Reach out if you have any questions. You're so welcome. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.